by using some coupling mechanisms, among which we had probe and loop. So from those, how to remove energy from the waveguides. We already discussed how to remove the energy from the waveguides. With the help of probe and with the help of loops, we'll be able to remove the energy from the waveguides. So by injecting the probes and by injecting the loops, you will be able to eliminate, or you will able to reduce the energy from the waveguide. We already discussed that one. Okay, so today we are going to discussing one more coupling mechanism among three. One more mechanism is there, that is aperture coupling, or you need to call slot coupling, or else you need to call the another name for this aperture coupling is window coupling. Coming to this aperture or window coupling, coming to this aperture coupling, the slots or apertures are sometimes used when very loose coupling is desired. Very loose coupling is desired. So loose coupling is desired. So in this method, when the energy enters through a small slot in the waveguide, in this method, when the energy enters, see this, when the energy enters with a small slot, see the diagram here, when the energy enter with small slots in the waveguide, in this waveguide, okay, in this waveguide, and the E field, electric field expands into the waveguide. So when the energy enters through a small slot in the waveguide and the electric field expands into the waveguide, and the electric field lines expand first across the slot, and then across the interior of the waveguide. First, which will be across the slot, after the interior of the waveguide, which will be across the interior of the waveguide. And the minimum reflection occurs, when energy is injected or removed. A minimum reflection occurs when the energy is injected or removed from the waveguide. If the size of the slot, or if the size of the aperture, or if the size of the window is properly proportional to the frequency of the energy, which is proportional to the frequency of the energy. This size of this aperture is proportional to the frequency of the energy. Just you need to remember this size. Okay, this size is proportional to the frequency of the energy. This is the figure, aperture coupling. This is the figure, aperture coupling. This is the figure, aperture coupling. See that. So here the energy is entered into with a small slot, right? So with the help of that only you are able to remove the energy from that. This is the electric field direction in the waveguide, rectangular waveguide. This is the rectangular waveguide, yes or no? So in the rectangular waveguide, the electric field direction is like this. So if the electric field induced, what will happen? The current flow will be also happening inside in the circuit. Yes, sir. So after learning how energy is coupled into and out of a waveguide with slots. After learning that how the energy is coupled into the waveguide and as well as out of the waveguide with slots. So you might think that leaving the end open is the most simple way of injecting. Leaving the end open is the most simple way of injecting or removing energy in a waveguide. Removing energy in a waveguide. Next, this is not the case. However, this is the not case. However, because when energy leaves a waveguide, the field from around the end of the waveguide, So these fields cause an impedance mismatch, which in turn cause the development of standing waves and a drastic losses in efficiency. So in the field causes an impedance may be mismatches, which in turns this will be cause the development of the standing waves and a drastic loss in the efficiency. If the impedance mismatch will be happening in the fields and in the turns in the standing waves, what will happen? Some losses in the efficiency will be happening. Next, coming to the next topic is impedance matching using a waveguide iris. Impedance matching using a waveguide iris. No doubt, impedance matching using a waveguide iris. Irises are effectively obstructions. Irises are effectively obstructions. These irises are effectively obstructions within the waveguide that provide a capacitive or inductive element within the waveguide to provide the impedance matching. So in the aperture coupling, we are getting one cause, that is impedance mismatching, or else in the turns we will get the impedance mismatching in the development of the standing wave. So that is will be affecting the losses in the efficiency. If you want to overcome impedance mismatchings, means you need to use the waveguide irises. Okay, so the irises are effectively obstructions within the waveguide that provide a capacitive or inductive element within the waveguide to provide the impedance mismatch. These obstructions are waveguide irises is located in either the transverse plane of the magnetic or electric fields. These obstructions are these irises, impedance matching using a waveguide irises is located in either the transverse plane of the magnetic field or transverse plane of the electric field. It means that you need to keep or you need to locate these irises, waveguide irises, in either TM mode or either TE mode. Shortcut, you need to write it like that. That is only transverse plane of the magnetic or electric field. You need to remember that. And a waveguide iris places a shunt capacitance. A waveguide iris places a shunt capacitance or inductance across the waveguide. A waveguide iris places a shunt capacitance or inductance across the waveguide and it is directly proportional to the size of the waveguide irises. This capacitance or inductance value will be proportional directly, proportional to the size of the waveguide irises, which will be proportional to the size of the waveguide irises. And an inductive waveguide iris, an inductive waveguide iris is placed within the magnetic field. Inductive iris you need to placed within the magnetic field. And if you want to place a capacitive waveguide iris, means where you have to place, in which field you have to place. This capacitive waveguide iris is placed within the electric field. It means that you need to keep your mind these 2 points. An inductive waveguide iris is placed into magnetic field, within the magnetic field, and a capacitive waveguide iris is placed within the electric field. You need to note on these 2 points. And these can be susceptible to break down. These can be susceptible to break down under high power conditions. Under high power conditions, particularly the electric plane irises, as they concentrate the electric field. So why you need to concentrate on only electric plane, means here you are using electric field. So because that reason, these high power conditions are particularly the electric plane irises, as they concentrate on the electric field only. Accordingly, the uses of waveguide irises are screw, a post can limit the power handling capacity. We have a limited power handling capacity. Rather than that, we are unable to handling power in the waveguide irises or screws or posts. Okay. So this is the impedance matching using a waveguide irises. See from this diagram what we have from this. This is capacitive waveguide. This will be locating here. This is the capacitive waveguide. This is the inductive. This is the inductive waveguide of inductive iris, where you need to keep it this. If you want to keep it this inductive waveguide irises, means you need to prefer only magnetic field. You need to place this inductive waveguide iris into magnetic field. And if you want to place this capacitive waveguide iris, you need to prefer only electric field. So where you need to keep these two. So depends on your convenient of. So this is the impedance matching using waveguide iris. And the waveguide iris may be either be on the only one side of the waveguide, or there may be a waveguide iris on the both sides to balance the system. These waveguides may be, you need to keep either only one side of the waveguide, or else this will be managing both sides, or balancing the both sides of the system, waveguide system. Next, single waveguide iris. Single waveguide iris is the often referred to as an symmetric waveguide. Sorry, asymmetric waveguide iris. One way there are two or one other sides is known as symmetrical waveguides. See the asymmetrical waveguide iris. Here you need to keep only one side, this waveguide iris. Okay, so symmetrical waveguide means we have both. Let us assume in the mathematical we have symmetrical means we have both signs. Asymmetrical means we have either one sign, either positive or negative. Like that you need to define. So in the figure we have symmetrical and asymmetrical. The second one is the symmetrical waveguide iris. The first one is asymmetrical waveguide iris. Okay, if you have a single means it indicates that this is asymmetrical waveguide iris. If you have a both means from upper and lower, top and bottom, which will be related to symmetrical waveguide iris. A combination of both E and H planes. It means that a combination of both means both electric field and magnetic field plane of waveguide irises can be used to provide both inductive and capacitive resistance. It means that if you have combination of both fields, if you have a TEM mode, it means that you have a both planes, or you have electric field and magnetic field in the waveguide irises, which will be provide both inductive and capacitive waveguide irises. This forms a tuned circuit. This forms a tuned circuit at resonance. The irises act as a high impedance shunt. These irises act as a high impedance shunt, either above or below resonance, either above or below resonance state. And the irises act as a capacitive and inductive reactance. These irises may be will act as capacitance and capacitive and inductive reactances. You need to remind this also. So if you are using irises, waveguide irises inside your waveguide, either you need to keep these two in either rectangular waveguide, TEM mode or TM mode, whatever it is. This will be act as a capacitive and inductive reactance. Next, coming to impedance matching using a waveguide post or screw. Impedance matching using a waveguide post or screw. So in addition to using a waveguide iris, you need to use post or screw. These two can be also be used to give a similar effect, thereby provide a waveguide impedance matching. Okay, now if you want to making matching of impedance means these post or screw will be providing waveguide impedance matching. And the waveguide post or screw is made from a conductive material. This waveguide post or screw is made from a conductive material. Note down this point is very important. A waveguide post or screw is made from a conductive material. To make the post or screw inductive, it should be extend through the waveguide completely making contact with both top and bottom walls. We already see in the previous diagram. You need to keep completely or you need to making contact with both top and bottom walls with the help of these post or screws. We already discussed symmetrical waveguide irises. In that we need to keep the iris both top and bottom. Similarly, here also you need to keep these post and screws both top and bottom walls, completely making contact with both top and bottom walls. For a capacitive reactance, for a capacitive reactance, the post or screw, the post or screw should only extend the part of the way through. When a screw is used, when a screw is used, the level can be vary. The level can be, if you are using screw, what will happen? The level can be varied to adjust the waveguide to the right conditions. If you are using the screw, the level can be varied to adjust the waveguide to the right conditions. The diagram shows the electric field across the cross section of the waveguide. Cross section of the waveguide. And the lowest frequency that can be propagated by a mode equations to that where the wave can fit into the waveguide. It means that if you are going to propagate low frequency signals into your mode equations, that where the wave can be fit into the waveguide. As seen by the diagram, it is possible for a number of modes to be active. It is possible for a number of modes to be active, and this can cause significant problems and issues. This can be cause significant problems and issues. If all the modes propagate in slightly different ways, and therefore if a number of modes are active, signal issues can be occur. Signal issues will be occur if the all modes will be propagate in slightly different ways. You will get it the number of modes are active, then definitely will get it the signal issues. Why? Here all modes are propagating with a slight ways, with a slight different of ways. It means that we have some differences in the maybe frequencies. If you are getting such type of problems, what will happen? The signal issues will be occur. Why? All modes are in active region, or all modes in active with a slight different frequency variations. It is therefore best to select the waveguide dimensions. It is therefore best to select the waveguide dimension so that for a given input signal, you need to take the dimensions for a given input signal. Then only the energy of the dominant mode can be transmitted by the waveguide. If you take the dimensions of the given input signal, or else you will get a signal issues from the different modes. So only the energy of the dominant mode can be transmitted by the waveguide. For example, you need to take example. For a given frequency, the width of the rectangular waveguide may be too large. It means more. This would be cause the TE20 mode. TE20 mode. TE20 mode propagation. So in that, you need to see the width of the rectangular waveguide. If that is large, this would be cause the TE20 mode to propagate. So based on that only, the width of the rectangular waveguide, you will get it this. This is the best example for that. Next in the results. For low aspect ratio of the rectangular waveguide of the TE20 mode is the next higher order mode. This is the next higher order mode. It is harmonically related to the cutoff frequency of the TE10 mode. So TE10 mode is the dominant mode. Where we will get it this under the cutoff frequency region, which will be related to the harmonically. This relationship and attenuation and propagation characteristics of the attenuation and propagation characteristics that determines the normal operating frequency range of the rectangular waveguide. The relationship between the attenuation and propagation. The relationship between the attenuation and propagation characteristics. How to determine means you need to determine the normal operating frequency range of the rectangular waveguide. With the help of that only, normal operating frequency range only, you need to define the relationship between attenuation and propagation. You need to define characteristics of the attenuation and propagation. Next, coming to waveguide bends. Coming to waveguide bends. How to bend the waveguide? So you need to discuss waveguide bends. So the details of the RF waveguide bends allowing the changes in the direction of the transmission line waveguide in the E band and H band. So where you need to allow the changes in the where you need to allow the changes in the direction of the transmission line. You need to allow the changes in the direction of the transmission line. Waveguide E bend and waveguide H bend. These two bends will be allowing in the direction of the transmission line of the wave. And the waveguide is normally ridged except for flexible waveguide. Except for flexible waveguide. Waveguide is normally ridged except for flexible waveguide. And therefore it is often necessary to direct the waveguide in a particular direction. You need to choose in a particular direction. Don't change the direction wherever you need or wherever you want to wish. You need to select a particular direction or a particular direction you need to choose. So using the waveguide bends and twist, you know it, twisting. A twist, it is possible to arrange the waveguide into the positions required. When the using waveguide bends and waveguide twisted, it is necessary to ensure the bending and twisting is accomplished in the correct manner. We already discussed. You need to choose the particular direction in correct manner. Otherwise, the electric and magnetic fields will be unduly distorted. If you want to prefer any direction means you will get it distortions. You will get it distortions in the electric and magnetic fields. Okay, now otherwise the electric and magnetic fields will be unduly distorted and the signal will be not propagated in the manner required, causing losses and reflections. Accordingly, waveguide bend and waveguide twisted sections are manufactured specially to allow the waveguide direction to be altered without unduly destroying the field pattern and inducing losses. This means that the waveguide band and waveguide twisted sections are manufactured specially to allow the waveguide direction to be altered without unduly destroying the field pattern and inducing losses. Next, the types of waveguide bends. How many types we have in the waveguide bends? There are several ways in which waveguide bends can be accomplished. They may be used according to the applications and the requirements of the waveguide bend. They may be used according to the applications and the requirements. From that, we have a waveguide E band, waveguide H band, waveguide sharp E band, waveguide sharp H band. Among which we need to discuss first waveguide E band. Waveguide E band. The first one, waveguide E band. So each type of bending is achieved in a way that enables the signal to propagate correctly. So why you need to choose this? You need to, if you want to achieve this bending or this bend, this is the way that enable the signal to propagate correct manner. If you want to enable the signal to propagate correctly means you need to choose this band and with the minimum of disruption to the field and hence to the overall signal. For example, ideally the waveguide should be bent very gradually. But this is normally not a viable and therefore specific waveguide bend are used. Most of properties, the waveguide bends are commonly angle of 90 degrees. Waveguide bends are the most common by far. So this is the waveguide bend must have a radius greater than 2 waveguides, which means that you need to see the diagram. So in this, the radius of this waveguide E bend is greater than 2 wavelength, greater than the 2 wavelength, which means that this radius R value is twice of the wavelength. Sorry, you need to call not twice, double of the wavelength. This is the waveguide E bend. Waveguide E bend diagram. You need to see this value is 2 wavelength. This radius value is 2 wavelength. Next, the second one is waveguide H bend. See the waveguide H bend. This is also the same. The radius is greater than 2 wavelength only. There is no change in that value. But from this form of the waveguide band is very similar to E band only, but except the distortions, except that it is distorted the HR magnetic field, not in E band field. It creates the bend around the thinner side of the waveguide. It creates the bend around the thinner side of the waveguide. Thinner side of the waveguide. Next one is waveguide sharp E bend. So in sometimes circumstances, a much shorter or sharper bend may be required. So in some cases, we require a sharp E bend. We require sharp E bend, sharp electric field bend. So this can be accomplished in the slight different manner. It means that this technique is used to around 45 degrees bend in the waveguide. So in the previous, we need to choose 90 degrees bend in the waveguide. This will be effectively, the signal is reflected. If you are using this, which will be effectively, the signal is reflected. And using a 45 degree surface, the reflection occurs in such a way that the fields are left undistributed. The fields are left undistributed. Which means that although the phase is inverted, and in some applications this may be needed accounting for or correcting. This will be used in some applications for accounting or for correcting. This will be needed. And the angle of this sharp E bend is 45 degrees. In the H and E bending, waveguide E bending, we have the angle of 90 degrees bending. 90 degrees bend in the waveguide. This is the waveguide sharp E bend. The quarter of 2 waveguide length. See that. This is the rectangular waveguide. In that. Next one is waveguide sharp H bend. Waveguide sharp H bend. These four of waveguide band is the same as sharp E bend only, but except that the waveguide bend affect the H field rather than E field. In the name itself we have this is H band. H field rather than E field. This will be affecting only the H field. But here the wavelength is only not twice. We have only take the waveguide length is 1, which means that not twice of the wavelength. Okay. Next, waveguide twist. Waveguide twist. They are also instantaneous where the waveguide may require twisting. So where you require this twisting, so there you need to use, or where this is required. A gradual twist in the waveguide is used to turn the polarization of the waveguide and hence the waveform. This means that in order to prevent undue distortion on the waveform, a 90 degrees twist should be undertaken over a distance greater than two wavelengths of the frequency in use. Which means that so where undue distortions on the waveform under 90 degrees twisted should be undertaken over a distance greater than the two wavelengths of the frequency in use. There you need to use this waveguide twist. If a complete inversion is required, for example, assume that for phasing requirements, the overall inversion is nothing but 180 degrees twist should be undertaken over a 4 wavelength distance. So where you require this phase requirements, you need to use this waveguide twisting. Overall inversion, it means that which will be 180 degrees base. This twist should be take over a 4 wavelength distance. Okay, this is the today's topic, coupling mechanism. Just we need to remember all this. First, you need to discuss aperture coupling, which will be using for removing energy from the waveguide. If you want to remove in E plane means you need to use what? Electric field. If you want to remove energy from the H plane means you need to use what? You need to use. If you want to remove the energy from the electric field, what you need to use? You need to use capacitive waveguide. If you want to remove the energy from the magnetic field means you need to use inductive waveguide. Inductive waveguide iris, which will be placed within the magnetic field. The capacitive waveguide iris is placed within the electric field. If you want to remove the energy from the electric field, just you need to keep those 2 points. Accordingly, same with the help of this screw and post also, you need to use these two. You need to eliminate or you need to remove the energy from the waveguide. If you have a rectangular waveguide, with the help of these two, you need to keep or you need to insert these two inside your rectangular waveguide. You need to eliminate the energy from the waveguides. This is symmetrical waveguide iris. This is asymmetrical waveguide iris. Symmetrical means you need to keep both top and bottom. Same in the screw and in the post also same. You need to follow the same scenario. Symmetric means you need to use either top or bottom. Depends on your requirement or your convenient you need to use. Okay. So the next one is matching impedance matching using a waveguide post or screw. You need to use this. You need to eliminate or remove the energy from the waveguide. Okay, same scenario you need to follow here also. Coming to waveguide bands. So by using these waveguide bands, we need to eliminate the mismatches will be happening in the circuit, you know it. So with the help of these, you need to eliminate screws and posts. You need to eliminate the impedance mismatches. Inserting these two, either post or a screw, whatever it is. With the help of that, you need to eliminate the impedance mismatches inside in the rectangular waveguide. If you want to keep inductive means you need to use magnetic field, which means that TM mode. If you are going to derive the expressions of what TM mode means, you need to use only inductive irises, or you need to use screw or post. With the help of that only, you need to overcome the impedance mismatches. You need to injecting these two, either a post or a screw. Okay. Next is the waveguide bends. We have 4 waveguide bends: waveguide E bend, waveguide H bend, waveguide sharp E bend, waveguide sharp H bend. Okay. So from this, what we need to find out? You need to find the bends of the waveguides. So where you will get it that in a particular changes will be happening in the direction of transmission line. So there you will get it this waveguide E bend or waveguide H bend. But we need to choose particular direction of the transmission line. Don't take wherever you want. You need to fix the direction of the transmission line. Then only You will able to find out the waveguide bends in the H and E. Okay. So that only we mentioned here also. Okay. So this is the types of waveguide bends. We have several waveguide bends. So they may be used according to the applications of the, depends on the applications and the requirements of the waveguide. So here we have a waveguide E band, waveguide H band, waveguide sharp E band, waveguide sharp H band. So in the waveguide E band, what you are achieving? You are achieving the propagation of the signal, and the signal correct propagation. We are getting signal correct propagation from the waveguide E band, and at bending point the angle of waveguide is should be 90 degrees most of cases in the waveguide E band. In the H band also same. The waveguide angle is, the bending waveguide angle is 90 degrees only, but the wavelength is twice of the radius of the waveguide. The wavelength is twice of the wavelength. Lambda is twice of the radius of the wavelength. Sorry, radius of the waveguide. That only we mentioned here. That value is greater than the 2 wavelength in both waveguide E band and waveguide H band. But here in the H band, where you will get it, that in the H field or magnetic field, we will get it the waveguide H band at 90 degrees phase, 90 degrees angle. You need to keep your mind. Next is waveguide sharp E band. In this, the difference is only angle. At 45 degrees angle, the sharp E band will be happening. We need to keep the direction of the transmission line. You need to fix, or you need to choose the proper direction of transmission line, and the angle is going to reduce. That value is 45 degrees bend in the waveguide. So where will this waveguide sharp E band will be happening? In the electric field only. In the electric field only. Coming to this waveguide sharp H band. So where will get it this? At only field of magnetic. There only will get it this. And the angle value is, you need to keep our mind, 45 degrees. And the angle 45 degrees only. Next, waveguide twisting. You know that. What is meant by twisting? You need to twisting means you need to rounding. I think all of you know that. We already learned from the STLD. Twisting. Okay, so if you want to twisting the waveguide, means the angle for that is 90 degrees. So at that point only you need to take, under that point only you need to take the value waveguide twisting. So this will be completely inversion of this waveguide polarization. For example, if you want to require phase requirement of any waveguide, so first just you need to do the overall inversion of the polarization of the waveguide. Then you will get the twisting. That twisting would be should be taken from the over a 4 wavelength, over a 4 wavelength distance.